got trapped in the woods. The local ranger came by, I was talking to the ranger. When I turned around, the bear I was trapping for had come out of the woods, jumped up into my pickup, and had my nice mule deer. I just yelled, "Get out of my truck!" And that bear looked at me, dropped the mule deer, and ran back in the woods. So, it works on your dog. I'm not going to say it always is going to work on a bear, but it's certainly an easy thing to try right away, and especially with just a curious bear, it will sometimes work. If you have a curious bear following you, move on to the bear's path. If the bear turns and follows you, that's a good indication then that that bear is kind of keying in on you. So then you want to stop, stand your ground, be aggressive, look big, group up, yell, throw rocks, throw sticks, and use your pepper spray on a bear like that. If you have a predatory bear, again, make contact, you want to be aggressive and fight back. Use any available weapon, bear spray, rocks, sticks. And, you have to fight as if your life depends upon it, because it probably does. And then a predatory bear, they usually will persist in the attack until they're either scared away, overpowered, or injured or killed in some way. Now again, these are extremely rare. This is like 0.01% of all bear attacks, probably even less than that. But again, you wouldn't want to play dead when a curious or predatory bear is approaching you. That would be the exact wrong thing to do. Anytime a bear tries to enter your tent at night, that bear does not have good intentions. You want to be aggressive. And then black bears, are pretty timid. You can behaviorally dominate a black bear in most cases, but you still have to remember in the back of your mind that black bears do occasionally prey on humans. It's extremely rare, but it does happen, so you can't just totally disregard the happy little black bear that's in the same meadow you camping. Bear spray, we recommend that everybody carries bear spray in the backcountry here. It's really hard to hit a charging bear with a firearm. And the beauty of bear spray is you don't have to be a good shot. It puts up a big cloud in front of you. And in a study in Alaska that looked at over 20 years of bear spray use, bear spray was over 92% effective. So just think of the odds. First, if you hike in big groups, make noise in blind spots, you've reduced the chance of a surprise encounter. If you still have a surprise encounter, try backing away. If the bear charges, stand your ground. You've greatly reduced the number of times that a bear's going to make contact. Then, if you do all that, you've reduced the odds, then you still have bear spray, which is 92% effective as your third source of defense. And so it's really pretty good odds. You only want to carry EPA certified bear spray. These little jogging defense products, it might be the same ingredient, but they usually come out in a little stream. So think of a grizzly bear, you've surprised it at 20 yards. It's charging at 44 feet per second. You don't want to use a little jogger defense product to try to hit it in the eyes. Bear spray, you just hit the button, puts out a big cloud in front of you, and stops the bear. You should practice with bear spray just like you would with a firearm. Practice your quick draw, practice getting the safety off, because when it happens, you don't want to have to think about those steps. You just want it to be instinctual. Also, you want to always carry your bear spray in a quick draw holster. Don't put it in your pack. Again, think of, you surprise the bear at 20 yards, it's charging at 44 feet per second. You don't have time to take off your pack, get your bear spray out of your pocket. So with bear spray, it doesn't shoot real far, so you don't want to spray it until the bear is 60 feet away or closer. Then you put up a big cloud, let the bear run through it. If the bear makes it through that initial cloud, you've got about 7 seconds of product, so then just empty the can into the bear's face. Last year at this training, if the bear's coming from a long distance, you probably have time to do maybe a 2 to 3 second blast, slight slide to side motion, put up a big cloud. But the public, I think, was getting confused by that. So really, for the general public, I think the best thing to do is say, once the bear is closer than 60 feet and charge him, start spraying. You want to aim at a slightly downward angle because the bear's coming so fast, you don't want it to run right underneath. And just empty the can into the bear's face. So I think that's really the best instructions. These things usually happen so fast, you don't have time to think. Now, a real experienced person might know that at 60 feet, I got time to do a 2 to 3 second blast and then see if the bear continues charging. But for the general public, I think the best thing to say is just, as the bear's coming, once it's closer than 60 feet, begin spraying. You got 7 seconds of product, and just empty it into the bear's face. Again, you got to remove the safety clip, and all you got to do is press the thumb trigger, aim slightly downward, and if the bear continues charging, continue spraying. You can see, a bear coming really fast, if he's aiming slightly downward. If he was aiming straight, a bear coming 44 feet per second might run right underneath that. So you definitely want to aim slightly downward. Bear spray is not a substitute for common sense. It's not brains in a can. So your first defense, should be avoid having those surprise encounters by doing those behavioral things I taught you. Your second defense should be diffuse the situation with your behavior by backing away. If the bear continues, stand your ground. And your third defense should be your bear spray. And you can see it doesn't shoot real far, so it definitely is a last resort. Bear spray is not insect repellent. Try this. You'll never do that again. And it also doesn't work. Don't think you can just coat your tent and no bear's going to go in it. Bear spray, how it stops the bear, it comes out in a really fine atomized mist. The bear breathes it in as it's charging. It gets in the eyes, the nose, the lungs, and temporarily shuts down the respiratory system. Once you spray it like this, it's really just a hot, spicy solution. So think of it like Tabasco sauce. It tastes great on your eggs, but you wouldn't want it thrown in your eyes. So that's exactly what bear spray is like. So a bear would maybe come in and start licking this off your tent. But when it's in a fine mist, then it gets into the lungs. A lot of people's greatest fear when they come to Yellowstone is they'll be camping. The bear comes in at night and attacks their tent. Those types of attacks are actually extremely rare. Yellowstone National Park is a designated campsite system. We provide a food pole in almost every campsite. The couple of campsites that don't have food poles have a food storage box. This has really cleaned up our backcountry. We have very few incidents ever of bears coming into camps and damaging property, injuring people, or getting people's food. How we recommend you set up your camp, there'll be a core camp that contains the bear pole where you're hanging your food. It'll have the fire ring where you cook your food. So this is where you prepare your food, eat your food, and hang your food. Then you want to set your tents up at least 100 yards away from that core camp. So the core campus area has a little tag, the campsite number, the fire ring, and the food pole. That's for all your odor stuff. Set your tent up a long way away. If I'm in a high-density grizzly bear area, I sometimes set my tent up 200 or 300 yards, sometimes as much as 400 yards away from that core camp. A lot of people, I think, mistake the core camp as the place that they're supposed to set up their tent. I've seen people even set up their tent right underneath the food pole. That might just cause a bear to try to climb up your tent to get at your food. Carcasses, Yellowstone National Park, we have large bison, elk populations, and we have winter-killed bison and elk, wolf-killed bison and elk, and carcasses tend to attract and hold a lot of bears in one area. Bears will defend carcasses from other bears, wolves, or people. So you want to watch for ravens, magpies, and coyotes. Those are good indications that a coyote is nearby. If you stumble onto a carcass, again, don't run. Back away the same way you came in. If you walked into that carcass without stepping on a bear, you should be able to back out the same way without surprising the bear. And if the bear charges, use your bear spray. I do carcass surveys every year in the park, so I've run into a lot of bears in carcasses. This is typically what they do. They stand on the carcass and dare me to come take it from them. They may bluff off at me. I just back away I came in, and they've always let me go. So you want to show the bear that it's his carcass, you acknowledge that, and you're just leaving. If you're going to detour around a carcass, you really got to be cautious. This is a bison carcass in Hayden Valley. There's 23 grizzly bears all around this carcass. There's a bear way out there, there's bears there, and there's actually a couple bears. I didn't have a wide enough angle lens, so I couldn't get them all in the picture. So if you're hiking, you see all this, you say, oh, I'm just going to detour around. You might just run right into one of these other bears. So in review, first of all, you want to avoid surprise encounters with bears. Be alert, make noise, stay on designated trails as much as possible, and hike in groups of at least 3 or more people. 5 or more is even better. If you surprise a bear and it reacts defensively, you want to slowly back away. If the bear charges, you want to stand your ground and use your bear pepper spray. If the bear makes contact, you want to play dead. If you have a curious bear, which could turn into a predatory bear, you want to be aggressive right off, use your bear spray, and fight back. Some of the things we're doing in Yellowstone Park to improve our bear safety messaging, we started installing some of this stuff as early as last year. I've worked very closely with both the Ranger Division and our Interpretive Division, and our Interpretive Division has done a great job on the design of these things. Myself and the Rangers have come up with a lot of the message we want, but then our interpretation division is coming up with the best way to say that message and get it out there. So we've put these up at all our entry stations to let people know, people coming from all over the world, all over the country, that Yellowstone's a little different. This is bear country, they need to be bear aware, and that we require proper food storage. These are at all our entrance stations, and this year we'll be installing them at the entrances to all our roadside campgrounds. This is a new sign that we're possibly going to put up this year because one of our biggest issues today is habituated bears as well as other wildlife along the roadsides. Just to let people know that all this wildlife can be dangerous, never approach feed. Bison actually injure more people most years than bears do. And these are going to go up somewhere in the areas near the entrance stations as well. Our interp division developed this flyer. For years we've given away this when you come into the park. It's pretty simple, but it's actually been pretty effective. For a number of years we were averaging about 12 bison gourings a year. We started giving out this flyer, and bison injuries have gone down. Well, the flip side of this bison warning now is going to contain this bear message. It talks about, both roadside bear jams, food storage, and then if you're hiking, the things we want people to do. So this is kind of a friendly way to tell visitors as they're entering the park how we want them to behave around wildlife, especially bears. We've also come up with a restroom poster. We noticed, in Bozeman and a lot of big cities, anytime you're standing at the urinal, there's something to read. We have a captive audience, so we're putting these up in park restrooms. Again, talking about roadside wildlife, and also what you can do when hiking and promoting carrying bear spray. This is another one. We worked with our interp division, developed these nice table tents for all our restaurants in the park. So this is the front side, this is the back side. So all the restaurants will have these on the tables. And again, it's warning messages for people hiking, how they should behave, and then promoting carrying bear spray and how to use bear spray. And then the one thing one challenge we had was day hikers. Overnight backpackers have to get a permit. So they have a one-to-one conversation with the ranger issuing the permit. They have to watch a little safety DVD, and they also get a little booklet all about safety in the backcountry and then bear safety. But day hikers don't have to get a permit. You can just come into the park, stop at any trailhead, and start hiking. So we didn't really have a way to contact them, but we do know that they stop in at visitor centers a lot. So our visitor centers are going to have these cards available for day hikers. If they ask about day hiking, they'll be given this card. There'll also be stacks of them on the visitor center desks so that day hikers can pick these up. And again, it talks on one side how to prevent encounters and what to do if you have an encounter. And then on the flip side, it talks about promotes carrying bear spray and how to use bear spray. So it's a way to try to get at day hikers who we know a very low proportion of them, less than 20%, will carry bear spray. And then kind of as a final effort to get at day hikers, we added this sign to our trailheads. Last year we put them up on the existing signboard, but we realized a lot of hikers, they get to the trailhead, they just put it on their pack and start going, and they ignore that big signboard that has the map and the warning information. So we're going to, this year, be putting these about 50 yards up the trail. Hopefully it's one last chance to catch the day hikers as they're setting off on their hike. Again, for today's text messaging society, you can't put a lot of words on stuff because you don't read it. So the main 5 bullets are how to prevent what we want you to do to prevent having a confrontation with a bear. And then for those that are a little bit more detail-minded, we have smaller font bullets with more detailed information for those who want it. Okay, I think I got a few minutes. I can answer a couple questions.
How many black bears?
Oh, I'll be to you next. What's the
How many
question?
black bears?
We have no current
Question was how many black bears?
The last research was conducted in the 1960s, and the estimate out of that research was 500 to 650. Right now, with grizzly bears being a threatened species, we're putting our effort and our science into grizzly bears. I've tried to raise money for black bear studies, and I just can't compete with grizzly bears, so it's just really hard to raise soft money to do black bear research, because they're abundant, they're all over the United States. There's no indication that they're in trouble here. They're pretty abundant on the northern range, so we really don't have a current population estimate. We just say that they're common. Is there a question?
What's their lifespan?
In a national park where we have very little human-caused mortality, our bears live 20 to 30 years old. Outside of national parks where there's a little bit higher human-caused mortality, late teens, early 20s, typically. Just a couple years ago, we had one of our radio-powered bears died when it was 30 years old. Usually, eventually, they lose their teeth, and then they die of malnutrition. Okay, I'll get this one away in the back.
Any more talk on a bear spray rental program?
There's currently some negotiations with a company out of Bozeman that might start a pilot program out of Canyon. As you get into concession management, there's a lot of rules and stuff that have come down from Congress, and so they're still negotiating all that, but there's possibly going to be a bear spray rental out of Canyon this year. And I've been told that there's an online company that does bear spray rentals, that may also do bear spray rentals, and they can deliver through UPS to certain gateway communities and stuff. How you work out picking that up, I don't know, but it's something that's also useful. Yes, I think we can do that. Yeah, and somebody from Interp that designed that is saying yes. So, yeah, so we just got to work out a way to get that to them. And, I can work with the Interp office because they're the mailing list for this one. Just send it out there.
A lot of my clients ask me, what do I do with bear spray when I'm going back to New York City? And I don't know, can people put that in their luggage? Is something I get asked?
No. You cannot fly with bear spray, so they will confiscate it at the airport. So we have recycling places here at the park. We get a lot of people that kind of drop them off at visitor centers and entrance gates.
I'll have this out of here. Thanks, man. It's gonna get some action.
Okay. Yeah. I know Fish and Wildlife Parks has a big program of hunters where they give them out to hunters, and they also do a lot of training with hunters. And so apparently you can leave them at the airport and they get sent to Montana Fish and Wildlife Parks. Right? I'll get this guy way in the basket.
Something from the visitors. Is there anything you can say or can be said about the 8% where bear spray is not effective?
You know, it's a tough thing to research because these aren't controlled experiments where you give a guy bear spray and say, go run into that bear. So this is based on live encounters and the people's story. But what we don't always know is, well, did the wind affect it? Did they actually hit the bear with it? So we don't know, but we do know that 92% of the cases, it worked, and the people that used it felt that that's what worked. The 8% doesn't mean those are all didn't work. There might have been confounding factors like wind or cold temperatures, or they missed. There are a few cases where people have it but don't have time to use it because it happens so fast. So I have that here. Scarface, I believe, is his actual name is grizzly bear number 211, and he is, I believe, 23 years old. And actually, I've talked to some people that say he lives in Great Peace. I haven't seen him personally yet, but the people I've talked to saw him, so I guess it's pretty good. So is all the scars too. This has here. They say he looks like a witch. Not that I recall. He asked if anybody had any problems with a young bear by campsite 3U1 of Lamar. We had very few conflicts last year. I think we only had 3 property damages.
I ran him off with him yelling, and then he was headed towards the fence, towards the cook tent. And then instead of just keeping going down the marsh,
This is an old cowboy telling that he ran a bear off 3U1 in the backcountry around Lamar.
but I think we had stayed that next night.
Yeah, we had, last year, we had one tent knocked down of Mystic Pass. And then we had, some researchers had a bad acoustic station at the Bearsburg Park. And then we had one other conflict with Mammoth. Probably did, that was it.
Is there any truth to the fact that with the increased wolf kills in the winter, that a lot of the grizzly bears are now not migrating because they have food source throughout the winter?
No, we have not seen that here at all. In Glacier, they had some bears stay out the winter. We've seen bears stay out later, so it's pretty common now for us to have some bears out until about Christmas. But of our collared bears, none of them have stayed up all winter. And our wolf project does some a 30-day real intensive research on wolf prey during the winter. And so they're monitoring wolf kill carcasses real closely, basically every day for a 30-day period. And they have not seen bears out in the middle of the winter yet. Way back.
One of the things that customers bring up for us is that they've seen the estimates of about 500 to 650 grizzly bears. But it seems like they've been seeing that for years and years.
The 500 to 650 is our estimate for black bears. We're not doing any research on black bears right now, so we just have that broad range from the last research. Grizzly bears, we put out a point estimate every year, and that for last year, using the method we've always used, it was 610. So it's been slowly climbing. If you look at those estimates, back in like 2005 or 6, it was right around 550. So it's been steadily climbing.
Do you recommend we use a 610 figure, or do you recommend we use the new remodeled figure?
Bears are a hard species to census because they're solitary. They live in this rugged mountainous terrain. I'd recommend you use both because you're going to get, people use whatever number supports their opinion. So, the people that are really against delisting of grizzly bears will use the lowest number we throw out there. People that are for delisting of grizzly bears will use the highest number. It's 2 different census techniques. Unfortunately, we just can't mail out surveys like the Census Department. So the 610 is very conservative, and I think the 700 one is more accurate with what we're seeing, but I put them both out there for everyone.
You mentioned earlier that we're reaching capacity. I'm kind of curious, do you have a number you're working with on that?
Carrying capacity like for Yellowstone Park fluctuates. We get wet years and dry years, and early springs and late springs. So we don't throw a number out there, but we're watching the population. And what we're seeing is, in recent years, more mortality of cubs, where the cubs are being killed by other male bears. We're seeing more adult females killed by big male bears. So we're reaching that bear social capacity where we're full, and they're really competing for resources. So that's what we're looking at is the density-dependent effects of a high-level population, and our growth is tapered off. In Yellowstone Park, our population estimates are pretty much flatlining. Our growth is like 0 to 1%. Outside of the park, it's more like 2%, and just 10 years ago we were increasing at a rate of 4 to 7%. So it's all tapering off, which suggests that it's competition for resources now.
Population estimates you're getting are for Greater Yellowstone or for Yellowstone Park?
Those are for the greater Yellowstone ecosystem. Yeah. Bears don't know these political boundaries, and they come and go.
Yes. With the bear population in the GYE, is there any concern that because there are no outside bears coming in, interbreeding? I mean, is there anything, you know, is that a concern at all?
It is a concern. We don't feel it's a big threat right now. We are monitoring genetics with all the bears we capture, both for research and management. We're also monitoring with, like in Glacier National Park, we know that those bears' genetics, and we actually had a problem bear from Yellowstone and a problem bear from Glacier. We put them in the same zoo, and they bred, and we could tell the offspring. We slipped it into our DNA samples, told the lab we were going to do a blind sample, and they picked out that there was one that was a mix of the two ecosystems. So we're monitoring. We'll be able to tell if glacier bears come down here or Yellowstone bears get up there. And they're getting closer all the time. We also have a plan